What's up, y'all? This is Lou. So, right now, let's discuss Project 2025. Project 2025 is uh, essentially fascist nonsense cooked up by the Hertiage Foundation. So, who are the Hertiage Foundation? The Hertiage Foundation is I would say, far right conservative think tank. They essentially have influence on pretty much most conservative politicians in the United States, up to and including whoever is the current president, if they are a conservative. So this is a very influential group. If there is a conservative president in office, the Heritage Foundation has their ear. Uh, this is because they're backed by the donor class. They're bankrolled by wealthy billionaires. Um, the kinds of wealthy billionaires who, if they could, they would revert America back to a time where you could have company towns and their businesses owning the towns that their employees lived in and paying them however they saw fit, uh, paying them wages that were so low that everyone in the house needs to work for them and shop in their store, which where goods cost more than they pay the employees. So this is probably the most bold and outright declaration of desire for fascism in the United States, Project 2025. It's essentially a book. It's the length of a novel. It's over 900 pages, I believe 920 pages of uh, guidelines, they call it, as to how they believe a conservative president should operate. These guidelines include things like outlawing LGBTQ content from media, basically eliminating LGBTQ people from public life. Things that you've heard other people say, people like Josh Hawley uh, and other conservative pundits, Jesse Waters, people like that. Um, Including economic policies, which of course favor big corporations, including um, this really big nonsense called unitary executive theory, which means that they believe that the president has the right to take control of essentially every federal agency. So like the FDA, the DHA, DOD. These things cannot operate independently of the president. They can't enact anything without White House approval. So this would give the president of the United States dictatorial power. That's what it would accomplish. Um, they they could threaten or disband literally any federal agency at will if that agency doesn't comply with the agenda currently in the White House. Now, um, the framers of the Constitution did give the president some of this, what they call unitary executive theory, although it's always been historically interpreted as a light touch, meaning the president forms these organizations and appoints people to run them, and then from that point on, the agency kind of takes care of itself. The bureaucracy takes care of itself. These agencies supply services to literally millions of Americans, over 50,000 jobs. Um, all these people would be fired like this and replaced with loyalists. If the agency did not comply, it would be threatened to be disbanded. If not, everyone would be fired and they would be filled with loyalists. Not to sound alarmist, but this is exactly what the Nazis did in Germany. So, whoever is bankrolling, which the information is out there of who exactly bankrolls the Heritage Foundation, because they have to publicly report who donates money to them. Although, because of super PACs and Citizens United, dark money groups can operate. And it's harder to find that information, though there are people who dedicate all their time to finding out who contributes to dark money groups. And as an advocate in these leftist rants that I do on this channel that no one's really watching, uh, I always encourage all of you to learn these people's names. You know, people like Harlan Crow is a big one. You know, like the guy who was bankrolling Clarence Thomas. Um, these wealthy donors who are essentially either trying to shape our country into something that they want that benefits them financially, or they're willing to sell the ability to do that to countries like Saudi Arabia, who want to push for fascism in this country, because if we go fascist, it bolsters their fascist country better. Like, there's no conflict. There's conflict if the further we even try to go towards democracy, it makes the relationship with them look much more questionable, and it makes their activities look more questionable. But if we uh, have far right governance take over, then it makes their far right governance look a lot more reasonable. And it lessens our independence. You know, something when Trump was in office, a lot of people were like, we were energy independent, which we weren't. Like, in fact, our dependency on Saudi Arabia increased because he's financially dependent on Saudi Arabia personally. So we can't achieve energy independence in this country without breaking from those countries, and what we depend on them for the most is oil. You know, if we the way, the pathway, the true pathway to independence is lessening oil dependency as a whole, as a country. Our dependence on automobiles, you know, like what I'm sitting in right now. Our dependence on our military's dependence on fuel, on oils, our dependence on planes as internal travel. You know, Italy built a high-speed rail system that ended up putting their national airline out of business. It's a lot more efficient and uses much less fuel. You know, projects like that. I mean, we could hamper them. We could hammer the oil market just by bringing Venezuela and Iran's oil to market, like removing sanctions on them, improving relations with those two countries, and bringing their oil to market. The price would crash. But the long term objective should be to get away from this, to and to innovate, to spread. You know, like you hear people talking about green energy. If we spread green energy, not only would the planet benefit, but we would be much less dependent on these industries. And not only that, but if we innovated green energy, then we would be the first to market. So other countries who wanted to increase their ability to use renewable energy, they would have to come to us for help with that. Like they used to have to come to us for defense purposes, which they still do. But um, anyway, my fellow Americans, the 8 people who watch this regularly, please look up Project 2025. And anytime you talk to conservative family members, or you get into an online debate with somebody who says that you are overreacting when you say that conservatives are fascists, or at least that there's a growing fascist sentiment among the conservative wings of political parties, show them Project 2025, because the Heritage Foundation is counting on our ignorance, on that no one is paying attention to them. That's what they're counting on. Because if people were loudly calling this crap out, they would have to explain it more. And they wouldn't be able to without agreeing that what they want is fascism. This has been Lou, on your left.